Baldur's Gate 3 is a big game with a lot of really fun and complex possibilities. No matter how many hours you've sunk into it, there always seems to be something new and fun to discover. What if you're just getting into the game and you're overwhelmed with analysis paralysis? What if you just can't seem to decide which character or what companion to choose? What exactly does it mean to have a dark urge? Well, jokes about STDs aside, I'm going to go through that in this video. And this is really more of an op-ed piece and far less of a factual-based video where I'm going to show concrete details. It's more anecdotal than anything else. So this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, all I'm going to be talking about is simply enjoying the ride of Baldur's Gate 3. Go with your gut. Want to try an arcane trickster, but you've seen things that speak out against it? Screw it. Do it. Want to play a dragonborn rogue? Then do it. This game is designed so that you do not need to play the absolute best way with all the broken items and broken classes. There's no wrong way to do this. The hardest difficulty, honor mode, does definitely benefit from min-maxing, but outside of that, it's just a way to trivialize portions of the game. Didn't get the best sword? No big deal. There's plenty of other amazing ones that maybe fit your character better. What I think a lot of the analysis paralysis stems from is a fear of missing out, based off of so many of the publication websites out there, or even content creators, myself included. I have tons of videos with hyperbole in their titles because of the nature of the algorithm in the industry. But if you take nothing away from this video, it's that you spent your money on your game, so you should play it exactly how you want. If you're paralyzed deciding between options, flip a coin or roll a dice. What this video is going to do is help break down these little moments of paralysis. So if that's all you wanted to know about what we'll be going into today, and you're set on your 1 or, I don't know, 50 concurrent playthroughs, then please feel free to just shut the video down. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. I've gone from something like 89% to now 80% unsubscribed viewership because of your help, but that's a number I'm still trying to get lower. Every little bit does help me. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters with the timeline in the description. And if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlist linked below and at the end of the video. Let's get started here on how to stop analyzing and start enjoying Baldur's Gate 3. Jumping into the game, I think that a lot of the initial kind of analysis paralysis comes from two things. Your origin, deciding what you wanted to go with, and maybe your class. And to defeat that, I think it kind of starts with creating a role play for your character. This is, after all, a Dungeons and Dragons based system. It's a game that's based off of a game where you play whatever the hell you want. Do you want to play yourself in this game, or do you want to make a whole new persona for yourself? I think kind of make that decision for yourself before you jump into anything. Because I think the game kind of boils down to, I think majority of players either go with an origin, which is, or I'm sorry, a custom origin, which is just whatever you make, or Dark Urge. And Dark Urge is still a custom origin, but with a very set storyline that is unique to you. I'll tell you that you should just kind of go with your gut. Press this little button, and does it speak to you? Does it sound fun? Then play it. It is really fun, is what I will tell you. Both of these are going to be a great experience for you. I think playing Dark Urge first is really, really cool because it maybe links the other two games a little bit better. But I think playing the custom game first and then coming back to Dark Urge is cool because you will shut off portions of the game playing as a Dark Urge because of the certain things that your character will do as it pertains to this origin. So I think that's your kind of big hurdle. But if you've never played a Baldur's Gate game or you're jumping into this for the first time, or maybe you don't even really remember them, just go custom. It's easy. You just jump in, you play whatever the hell you want, have fun with it. Just choose something out of the blue. But before we get into all this other stuff, what I want to talk about is your background. And this kind of comes into creating that role play for your character. And you know, maybe you don't have the craziest imagination and you're like, man, I don't know, dude, like I'm playing a video game. I don't want to have to jump into this much backstory. You don't need to. What I think you should do, though, is just kind of create a character in your mind for how you want to play. And I think that as you play through Baldur's Gate 3, it'll take on a life of its own, and you'll start to kind of make decisions based off of how that character might progress through the game. Or maybe, like I said, you just simply want to create yourself in the world. So I think it starts with background to have a little bit more fun for yourself. You know, are you going to play a character that is a former criminal? And maybe you still go paladin or cleric or something that is not otherwise commonly associated with being a criminal. That's fine. You can play a reformed criminal. You can play someone who's still a criminal, but is just like a dubious paladin, whatever it is. I think, though, that if you kind of use these backgrounds as kind of a palette for how you're going to approach the style of character, I think it might have, you might kind of break down some of that analysis paralysis. Because the big thing here is these backgrounds will give you inspirations, and the inspirations within the game, and not like you're going to be inspired in the game, these inspirations allow you to do re-rolls. So if you maybe do a conversational item and you choose a specific roll on something and it's a failure, well, the inspiration will allow you to re-roll that die. So it helps to kind of have a character you want to play with a background that you like for the character, you know, like, okay, we're playing a sorcerer. Sorcerers have their spells ingrained within them intrinsically at birth. It's part of, it's like a talent, right? It's built into who they are. Versus maybe, versus a wizard who learns how to cast spells. So maybe you're a sage and someone who's learned exactly, has become some sort of well-read individual that also uses their natural talents as a sorcerer or spellcaster to kind of leverage their background as a sage. Or maybe, again, and I've used this a lot in my videos, but maybe you're some sort of noble's son, or you are a noble outright, and you're using these talents because you come from a rich bloodline of draconic ancestors that have been imparted with good deal of what's it called, clout and money. And so you're kind of using your abilities as a sorcerer to leverage those of your nobility. You know, have some fun with this. It doesn't need to be crazy. You can just be like, you know what? Man, I just want to be a really good criminal. Boom, there you go, you're done. Or I'm a former cop. Cool, there you go, soldier. Boom, done. You know, like, you don't need to get super into this. But I think if you create that role play and you act according to the role play of the character you want to play, you're good. Think of what you do in the real world. Are you an entertainer? Are you a criminal? Are you some sort of craftsman? Are you a former military? A beggar on the streets? Whatever it is, man, like, choose a background that maybe plays with the way that you approach the world. Are you really into your theology or your religion? Then jump into maybe Acolyte. Play something that kind of speaks to the character or the person that you are as a human, and jump into that with Baldur's Gate 3. You'll hit the ground running rather than simply trying to make something up if you're not really into that sort of thing. I think it'll build upon itself if you take this route. This then brings us to another big point of paralysis, is race. Which one do you go with? It doesn't matter. This is not like previous editions of Dungeons and Dragons where you had to deal with certain penalties and certain bonuses for choosing specific races. Hey, you know what? If I'm an elf, I'm maybe not going to be the strongest. Or, you know what? If I'm a half-orc, maybe I'm just not going to be the most intelligent. It's not like that anymore. You just choose a race and you get boons for being a certain race, but you definitely don't get penalties. So this is the nice thing. You can just kind of choose whatever you like the look of. Are there ones that stand out for specific classes? Sure, but who gives a fuck? I play a drow bard for any other reason other than I just love drow. They're my favorite race in the game, so I like to do it. And I'm going to play, my next character is going to be a Gith paladin. And the Gith are really good at a lot of things, so that's neither here nor there. But I could have been a gnome paladin and been just as content if I liked gnomes, but I don't. Look at this guy. He looks unhinged. I'm not about him. But if you like, you know what, I'm a human. I identify with being a human, then just be a human. Humans are great. They get increased carry capacity. They get an extra skill to be proficient in. I think that a lot of people get really worried that they're choosing the wrong race and it's going to make their character weak. It's going to make their character not perform as well. It's not going to be the case. There might be some things that work for specific builds in a very specific niche way, but don't worry about that. Just choose which one you like the look of, because you're going to be looking at the character in a whole bunch of cinematics and conversations the entire time. So if you just choose a character like, yeah, I don't really like tieflings, but this guide online said they're really good. Fuck it. Don't do that. Do not make your experience worse because something on the internet told you this is the way to play the game. The way to play the game is the way you want to play the game. You like dwarfs, then play a dwarf. You don't know how to you don't really want to deal with all the customization, just randomize it. And you can even jump into edit things and you can, oh, you know what? I kind of like what we're working with here, but let's switch this hair up. Let's go with that. Boom. There we go. Randomize these things. And the cool thing about this game is you can jump between the randoms that you did, randomize a couple of these, and just go like, hey, you know what? I really liked this here, but I liked that hair color. What hair color? Oh, they went with orange there. Okay, well, let's just go with like orange there then. I like that. You know, oh my god, that's absurd looking. So just don't get so hung up in all the little details. Just make sure you're kind of content with the way. Oh, don't want to return to main menu. With the way your character looks enough that you're not going to be repulsed as you go through every single dialogue option, but you also enjoy the kind of character you've made. And also this will leverage into the background you've made for them because it's not going to be dependent upon the race. But maybe, you know what? You don't know anything about Dragonborn in Dungeons and Dragons, and you've created, and you said, this guy just looks really damn cool. And you look up a little bit about Dragonborn and how they're actually not related to dragons in this world, and they're from kind of like dragons from like a parallel dimension, and they don't really follow the same rules of dragons in this world. It's all this crazy stuff, and now you're down a rabbit hole of cool stuff about Dragonborn, and you love now playing the race. Now that you've knocked out your race and your background, maybe your origin, what do you do about your class? I mean, there's so many videos online. There's so many guides online that tell me that if I want to be the best at this, I got to do that. It doesn't matter. Just click one. Read these things. See what you like to do. Oh, you know what? Bound by a pact to an all-powerful patron, warlocks trade their loyalty for supernatural abilities unique. That sounds really sick. I'm going to go with that. And well, what about the subclass? Well, read it. Just read it and kind of see if it clicks with who you are. They're all going to play differently. They're all going to have little tiny spices into the way that the game plays that are going to be unique. And if you really are between a lot of these, what you can do is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and you've got 12 total classes here, right? You can maybe scrub out a couple of these. You're like, you know what? Yeah, there's 12, but I really don't want to play a cleric or a druid. Well, now I've got 10. So get a D20 die if you've got one. And nominate. Okay, Barbarian is 1 to 2, Bard is 3 to 4, Fighter is 5 to 6, so on and so forth, and roll the die. Oh, I came up with an 8. Well, that would be a monk, I think. Yeah, that's a monk. And monks are stupid strong. You're gonna have a lot of fun. It's gonna be a great experience. Guess what? Paladins really kick ass. They're a whole lot of fun. Ranger Beastmaster is my main character, and they are amazing. Wizards can cast every goddamn spell in the game, and it's so cool once you get to level 6 spells because you just feel like you just have changed the game in such a huge way. Warlocks have some of the best multi-classing capabilities across everything in the game, especially because they are also charisma-based characters, so they're great at conversations. Same thing with sorcerers, who also just cast a ton of different spells. And not only do they cast a ton of different spells, they make their spells overpowered with all their cool meta magic. Do you want to be a sneaky, stabby, rogue character? Because assassins can just alpha strike the hell out of anyone. Do you want to moonshift? Do you want to shapeshift into a bear, or shapeshift into an owl bear, or shapeshift into a saber-tooth tiger? Then have fun with a druid. Or if you want to cast a bunch of different crazy divine spells through cleric, then do it. Or you want to just smash someone in the face with a lute and call it a day, be a bard. Or you want to smash someone in the face with your face, then be a barbarian. Or if you want to do everything in the game and still be able to then jump into any other multi-class, then just choose a fighter. You know, like, there's just no wrong option here. And I think that it's very common for us to look at these and go, well, which one's the best? Because according to Larian statistics, everyone plays the majority of people play paladins. Not that they're wrong. The character I want to play when I play D&D is a Dragonborn paladin. It just so happens to be the same, like almost same configuration that we're seeing right here. But I think that the class that you choose should speak more to the type of character you like to play in RPGs. Do you like melee characters? Here you go. They're right here. These are your 3. Well, this can be a melee, can be a ranged. They're right there. Do you like to kind of be more of a hybrid character? Well, they're kind of right there, right? You got these guys right here. And then, you know what? You could just go with a melee character and hybridize them into a wizard. And the best thing about this, at any point in this game, if you decide you don't like your class you've chosen, you don't like the cantrips you've chosen, the spells you've chosen, or the abilities you've chosen, which we'll get to next, you go to Withers, who is someone that you're going to unlock in the very beginning of Act 1. And if you somehow miss him in Act 1, you'll get him in Act 2. He'll find his way to your camp. And you could just spend 100 gold and choose a new one. You just simply respec the character and you go into whatever you want. There's nothing that stops you from respecing at level 1 or respecing at level 12. I played a pure Ranger Beastmaster all the way up to level 12. And I just felt like I just wasn't doing anything. I respect my character into a 9-level Ranger Beastmaster, 3-level Fighter Battlemaster. And I love the character. And I still did this at the end of the game when I still had, I still had quite a bit to go, but I was in Act 3. I was going to be halfway through it. There's still plenty of game ahead for me to enjoy that character configuration. So respecking at the beginning, the late, the middle, whatever the hell, doesn't matter. As long as you're enjoying the playthrough at that point, that's all that matters. So please just choose the class that speaks more to what you like out of the game and less about what everyone tells you you should play when it comes to specific ways. And the last thing here for character creation is your ability points. Well, no, there's skills too. We'll go into that as well. I think honestly, all you need to do is press use recommended and make sure none of these are odd. If it's an odd number, you don't get a benefit from it. Assuming you're brand new to this game, if you're an experienced veteran, you know how to make odd numbers work for you because of feats and stuff down the road and things would happen within the story. But if I were to just press use recommended on this character and I didn't really know much about the game, all I would simply need to do here is like that. Just switch the +2 and +1 bonus to make this 16 strength and 16 constitution. Because the difference here is this goes from +3 to +3, 7. You get no benefit for having an odd number over 10. It's every 2 ability points, you get a +1 to your ability check. Meaning, if I'm at 10, it's a 0. If I'm at 12, it's a +1. As you can see the difference here between 10 and 12. So by having Constitution be at 15, we only have a +2, right? So if I swap the 2 and the 1 here to make this both 16, we now have a +3 on our Constitution and a +3 on our Strength. And our Dexterity here is at 12. We can, unfortunately, at this setup, you're gonna have an odd number, but when you have the situation, I really wouldn't worry about it as much. My point though remains is just simply, okay, we'll choose another class as an example too. Use recommended. Well, Constitution here at 13, Charisma's at 15, and Strength's up here. Well, we're gonna swap these two. Well, boom, there we go there. And maybe we knock our Wisdom down because we are a melee character. I want more Constitution. Boom, there you go. You just kind of look at the things that, these are not stats that we are unfamiliar with as RPG players, right? This isn't like another game like Pillars of Eternity where strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma do not equal what they typically do in D&D. D&D is very straightforward about it. This is the system we all know through all video games because they all copy it for ages and ages, right? Wizard, abilities, use recommended. Well, I know I'm an intelligence class. Let's just swap these two again and let's pull... can do probably that more than anything. I don't know. Oop, there we go. Probably something like that. Dexterity gives me more armor class, charisma, whatever. Go ahead, use recommended if you really don't know what you're doing. You can look that stuff up if you want, but I'm just saying the use recommended system in this game is not bad. You just got to learn that the best thing that you want to do is make sure you have things that are not uneven, that they are even numbers, that you get the most out of them, right? You don't want to sit there and have uneven numbers that are 17, or not uneven numbers, odd numbers, and just be shooting yourself in the foot. That's how you do your ability points. Straightforward, simple. But what about my skills? The real last thing of character creation. Skills? You know what? There are things that are really good. I'm not going to lie to you. There are things that are not so good. Animal handling, if you have animal speaking, is not needed. Animal handling is like a conversational skill if you don't have animal speaking. If you have animal speaking, then you use your normal conversational skills. What I'll say is the only skills that you should absolutely 100% take for your main character is one of these: deception, intimidation, or persuasion. One of those three. If you can get it in some way, either through your background or through your character class or through your race, whatever it is that you can make that situation happen, that's probably the most important. If you don't have it, don't worry, because you can add charisma, and that puts bonuses into these, because all these skills are governed by a specific ability point, and that ability point will be, as it reflects here, matches the same benefit or bonus that it's got, right? So I've got a +2 to charisma checks, or my intelligence is -1. So all intelligence-based skills say -1, unless I've become proficient in them. So I would just tell you, focus on one of them. The rest are just going to be fine. You have to remember with this game, you are not a single character alone in a world. You are a character with 3 other companions that are going to shore up the weaknesses of either your class, your race, or your skills. Hey, I'm a monk. I cannot pick locks with this character. That's okay. I have access to any other character I want because I can respec all my companions. I can do whatever I want with them, which brings me into my next subject, companions. So here's some of my many saves. And this is my rogue character, and we're in the camp right now. And you have an option of all of these really cool, really great companions. Which one do you choose? You know, which one's the best one? Which one's the right one? None of them. None of them are the best or the right one. It's all going to be entirely based off of you. Which ones can you stand is probably the better way to put it. Which that makes it sound like all of them are annoying, but rather you probably met someone and you're like, wow, that one's really abrasive. This one's really annoying. This one's really mean, whatever it is. That A is intended because all the characters meet each other on a mind flayer ship and are infected with an eye parasite that wants to turn them into a mind flayer. So they're going to be a little standoffish. But each one of these characters, either Astarion or Lae'zel, has some sort of really awesome, engrossing tale about them. And they have a real big pivot as the character that they are. Maybe you introduced to Will and you're like, God, this guy just seems precocious as fuck. I don't want to deal with this dude. Or maybe Gale is just too pompous for you. Whatever it is, they evolve. They are people. They're going through a whole big journey. So what I'll tell you is, don't think about their class, because I'm going to get that in a little bit. Think about the personality. Do you want to find out why Gale is such an asshole? Do you want to find out why Lae'zel seems like she's just going to headbutt you at any given moment? Peek into that. Find out about those characters. Or maybe they just really irritate you and you don't want to deal with them. Like maybe Shadowheart is just grates upon you, even though she reminds me of every single one of my exes. And I swear to God, it's like she worked at Hot Topic and I'm in love with her right now. Let's go listen to Pierce the Veil in my car. But my point is, though, that these characters have a lot to them. So choose the ones that don't annoy you and play with that character. Do not worry about their class, because I'll use my current setup as an example. Character sheet. Gith, the Lae'zel, I've kept as a fighter. And Shadowheart, she is currently a cleric. That's weird. She shouldn't be Trickery Domain. That's weird. Well, you can see Astarion over here is a wizard. Is a rogue by default, but I switched him over to a wizard because I wanted to use Astarion in my playthrough. I want to learn more about Astarion. So I decided I needed a spellcaster, and I made him my spellcaster. You're not bound to keeping these individuals as the class that they are. Sure, yeah, Astarion's nature isn't going to change to also all of a sudden be more wizardly. He's always going to be a very roguish character. Just like Lae'zel will always be a combative character if I wanted to turn her into a sorcerer. In my honor mode, she's a monk, which kind of plays into the whole Gith thing. But, or Shadowheart in my main playthrough too, she's a light domain cleric, which is completely opposite to what her entire story is, depending on how you play. But still, my point remains here is you're not bound to these characters on their individual classes. You just simply respec them and choose the different one by going to Withers. And also on that notion, let's say, you know what? I get what you're saying, Guy. They all have their stories and things to tell and so on and so forth, but it just doesn't work for me.
If you're sure.
Okay, so I'm sure that always tricks me. It's always like the double negative. I'm like, you manipulate me just my exes. You come over to Withers.
Not this one.
And he lounges about all awkwardly. And you press the wrong button and you can change your class. That's not what I meant to do. We go over to Withers here and we say, I would like to talk about hirelings. Recruit a hireling. So if you want someone with no personality and you just don't want to deal with them, you can go ahead and hire any of these hirelings. Even if you don't like the look of them, man. Hey, I'm going to change the way this guy looks. Cool. Now this is a half orc I can get behind. Whatever it is. And you can change their class too, just like you would anyone else. But maybe you want to run an entire party of small folk. So here's a dwarf. Here's a halfling. Here is a dwagar. Do I have another one? Yeah, here's a gnome. You can do that. So use these hirelings too. If you just decide, you know what, I maybe only like Shadow Hearts. She's the only one I can get behind. Use hirelings for the rest. They're not going to say anything for the most part. They'll have little kind of unique voices, but that's it. They have like their own little voice acting, but that's it. They're not going to like lay into you or anything like that. So hopefully this kind of helps break you out of any companion-based analysis paralysis that you might have had. So this all kind of brings us around full circle to everything we've talked about, right? Like, how do you combine all this stuff together to make a playthrough that feels like you're not just on the rails? And I think what it really comes down to is playing a playthrough that you accept the fate of what happens in your game. And I think that's a big portion of it. You know, like I can F5, and I'm playing on PC, and save this right now and go, you know what? I'm going to choose this. And that's the response. Maybe I didn't want that response. I'm just going to reload it. You can do that. You can save scum. There's a weird imperiousness that people get when it comes to, oh, I never save scum. Well, that's okay. That's the way you play your game. But at the same time, too, I would encourage you to play the game the way the game rolls for you, right? Like, hey, if that's the kind of route that it took, it was because that's the gut response that you had for your character and the way you wanted to play them in the world. So if the game responds a certain way, that's the game responding to the way you wanted to play initially. So I'd say go with it. Have fun with it. If you fail a roll of like a persuasion check and it just so happens to cause a huge fight and you kill something, that's cool. That is fun. That's the way the game's supposed to happen. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a content creator who makes these videos. I've saved scum tons of times. I reload decisions because I want to see what happens so I can talk about it. I do all sorts of stuff like that to kind of, fence that middle ground. But what I'll say is that a lot of this fun, a lot of the game, a lot of the fun, a lot of the game itself comes from just the random occurrences that happen. In my honor playthrough, I accidentally slapped a bridge and the bridge broke and it killed the character I wanted to recruit in the goblin camp. And I had to live with it because I'm playing on honor mode. And it's made the playthrough more fun and enjoyable for me. It pissed me off the second it happened. I was like, man, half the reason I made this run through was to do that one thing. And sometimes the game has different intentions for you. And I think if you run with those and resist them less, you'll ultimately enjoy the game. Because one of the biggest things I'll tell you too in conjunction with this is play concurrent playthroughs. This is my monk, 4 elements monk. That is probably not amazing, but I really love the 4 elements monk. I have a ranger beastmaster. I have a bardlock I'm playing. The other character you saw was a rogue gloomstalker. I'm going to be making a Gith paladin here soon. And I think a lot of people play concurrent playthroughs because they are curious to, well, I just went through that one portion of the game in a kind of good way. What's it like evil? I'm going to go through this evil now and see what it's like. There's nothing wrong with running 2 saves that are running in conjunction, playing through the same stuff over and over, but in a different way. Feel free to do that. In fact, I encourage it. I encourage you to build replayability into this game by not trying to get everything done at this immediately. And I understand a lot of us that are gamers now, especially those of us that are coming to BG3 from the nostalgia factor of Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, we're older. We've got lives, we've got kids, we've got careers. That's fine. Play this game in the bite-sized little bits that you want to play it in. Don't play it in this fell swoop that you think needs to get knocked out all in one journey, because it's just not going to happen. There are so many things. I deliberately left, say, like the mountain pass in Act 1 open to myself for a second playthrough, and I was kicking myself. So I was like, man, there's so much cool shit in here. But I encountered stuff in that playthrough that I did differently in my ranger playthrough that I'm like, wow, this whole situation has been an entirely different approach to the game, even though we've trodden roughly the same path. So even going down the same route through things, taking maybe the ranger-specific dialogue options or monk-specific dialogue options changes the game just a little bit, that things feel different, fun, and exciting. So hopefully this video helps you out in kind of cracking open that analysis paralysis, and I've helped maybe break down the big barriers that I've seen that people have had across their skills, their character, their race, their class, their companions, to help give you a more of an agreeable way to approach the game that is less on the rails and is more the way you want to play. And if you have any other tips to people that you've maybe defeated your own analysis paralysis or your own FOMO, as it is called, fear of missing out, let it be known in the comment section below. Say, hey, you know what? I also struggled with this, but the way I kind of learned to start loving the bomb or whatever it is, I started doing it this way or that way, whatever it is. Let it be known, share that information, because I'm sure tons of people will go through it. And I know myself included too. I juggled back and forth between doing like a ranger or a paladin so many times. And then I saw the monk came out. I was like, man, the monk looks so cool too. It's just the nature of what we're doing. So have fun with it. Enjoy. If you have any questions, I'm here to help out. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.